Okay, so last lecture we started with the topic of friction and we were discussing about the angle of friction. So we have seen about, we will be talking about dry friction, and then there are two types, static and kinetic friction, and we went through all these things. Okay, so this is the thing that we were discussing in the last class is angle of friction. Now let me shift to OneNote. Okay, can you see the screen, OneNote screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think today I would prefer to go to more traditional way of teaching, which I prefer. So there will be a lot of derivation, some things which we have to do together. So last class we discussed about friction, a block on an inclined plane. So if there is a block which is lying horizontally, then we know that there is a weight W and there is a normal reaction N. Now, if we start to kind of increase the inclination of that angle to, let's say, an angle theta, and now if I draw this block and so the weight W acts vertically downwards. Now then there is a reaction, normal reaction, which is perpendicular to the surface, and then the block has a tendency to slide down due to W sine theta, and therefore there will be a friction force acting opposite uh, opposite to the tendency of impending motion, and this will be the friction force. Now, we said that we can replace these two forces by a net resultant reaction R, which will be, so the net resultant will be just opposite to W, and it will be this R. So this R is actually made up by this normal reaction, which is perpendicular to the surface. And then there is a friction force F, which add up together to give you the resultants, not reaction, it is resultant. So this is the resultant force that the surface is exerting, and this is a resultant of normal reaction and the friction force. And now, since theta is small, this thing will get balanced. W and R will balance each other. Okay. Now, if we see with respect to the normal surface, so this is the normal line, and this is this angle by which the reaction for the resultant moves. This angle is called as your angle of friction phi. So this is what we discussed yesterday, angle of friction, which is phi. Now, this angle phi can be increased to a maximum value phi s. S stands for static. So we can have the block in equilibrium. So we can increase the theta. So if I further increase the theta to, let us say, certain value like this, and I have this block. Now this I have increased to another value theta, which is more than the second figure. And now in this case, this is the weight W, and this is the normal line, and this is the maximum that we can go is phi s. So the resultant force can reach maximum up to this range, and beyond that, it will not be able to go further. So if I further increase the theta to something like this, so if I have a very large theta, and here is the block, then this is weight W, and this is the normal line, right? Normal to the surface, and we can have your resultant R, which is maximum as phi s. So the resultant can go only up to phi s. And now you can see that there is an unbalanced force on the block. So if you draw the free body diagram of the block, so I have one force like this and another force which is like this. So there is a net unbalance on the block, and this system will move. The system will not be in equilibrium. So this is what we talked about as angle of friction. Now, same thing if I have on a horizontal surface. So if I have a weight W and then there is a resultant R. Now, if I start pushing this block in one way, the resultant will move on this direction, right? So initially it was like this, but if I apply a force, let me use a different color. So if I apply a force P, then the resultant will move to this direction, right? If I apply a force, so instead of applying P in this direction, if I apply it like this, the resultant will move in this direction. So in fact, if you consider this as a whole 3D problem, you will get a cone here, and this is called as your cone of friction. So this is your resultant force from the surface can actually move around this whole cone in a 3D. And if you talk about 2D, it can, it can go from this angle to this angle, which is, this is phi. We are talking about static case. So your resultant from the ground can actually move from one side to other side of this thing, right? This arc. And these concepts are going to be very useful in this lecture. Okay. So this was a quick review of what we did in the last class. And the discussion for today is about screw jacks and so square threaded screws. So that is the discussion for today. Jacks. Okay, so I hope you can see these figures, and the analysis that we are going to do now is for these square threaded screws or screw jacks. And these are used for screw jacks, these are used for presses, these are used for various applications. For example, this is a C clamp, right? So if you have to use clamps, they use these square threaded screws, presses. Even for example, if you visit some temples, like you will be having some things to break the coconuts, right? So these all types of small machines, they are operate on the principle of screw jacks or square threaded screws. So in this lecture, we are going to study about how do we analyze such types of systems. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem is something that you can see in these figures. So suppose I have got a heavy load W, right? So let's say I want to lift a car, right? So ordinarily a person single-handedly cannot lift a car. But by the help of screw jacks, we know a person can lift a car just by applying a moment. So just by applying a moment, we can lift a car, which is very, very heavy, around 1500 kg, can be lifted by a single person by the help of these simple machines. So let us say this weight is 1500 kg multiplied by 10, around 15,000 newtons. And we want to calculate what should be the force P applied so that we can slowly lift up the car. Same thing here. What moment M should be applied so that a very heavy weight W can be lifted up in this through this by the help of screw jack. Okay, so we will try to do this calculation. Just give me 1 minute. I don't know, there is some lot of noise coming nearby. Now, to do this analysis, let me redraw this diagram so that we can understand this. Okay, let us say this is a schematic diagram of this thing that we are analyzing. So we have got a heavy load W, which is acting on the screw. So this is the screw. And, this we can say as frame or jack or frame. So this is a screw which, so if I rotate this screw by a moment M, right? So we apply a moment M and we want to lift this heavy load W upward, right? So that is the objective, and we want to calculate a relationship between W and M through this analysis. Now, this problem, so you can see here that there are two threads which are actually sliding on top of each other. So one thread is the thread of the screw, which is in the black color, and then there is another thread which is the thread of the frame, which is in the red color. So there is a relative motion between two threads on top of each other, the black thread and the red thread. And this is a relative motion, this is a sliding motion. Now, if we cut open the section and expand that section and see it in an expanded view, it will look something like this. So let's say this is the red color thread of the frame, and this is the thread of the screw. So this is the screw thread, and this is the frame thread. So there is a relative motion between these two threads as we apply moment M, and this weight is slowly lifted up. It is just in equilibrium, and it is just moving, it is just in equilibrium and moving very slowly. So it is like now this heavy weight W is actually acted upon these threads. So these threads are going to carry this, this weight W, which will act on this. Now we are applying a moment M, and that moment M is going to apply a horizontal force on the black thread. So let us say this force, which is Q, which is a horizontal force, this is being applied due to the moment M, which we are applying externally. And due to this force Q, this block or this thread will try to slip up the frame thread, and it will try to go up. And as a resultant, if Q was not there, then resultant would have been like vertically downward. But since we are trying to push this thread up, you see, this is the normal. Let me draw the normal first. So this is the normal line. And now, since we are trying to push this block up, now this you can see that this problem is exactly same as what we have discussed in the last class, block on top of an inclined plane. And since we are trying to push it up, the resultant force will move, let me use green color, will move in this direction, and it will be like this. The resultant of normal and the friction force will act in this direction, so that this block or square thread, screw thread, is in equilibrium. Now, if we resolve the angles, this is vertical. This angle is theta, which is, we will do this calculation. So if this angle is theta, this angle is also theta, and this angle is also theta. This is the angle of so-called inclination in inclined plane. Now, in the limiting case, when Q is very large, so that just we are about to sustain the friction, the resultant will have moved to its maximum position phi, and more specifically phi s, as we have seen in the in the review as well as in the last lecture. In the limiting case, the resultant will move to an angle, the maximum possible angle phi s, and now the system is in equilibrium. Now, before we go ahead, let's see what these angles are, theta and phi. So theta is basically, we have unwrapped these thread. So if I say that the threads have got what is called as lead as L. So lead is basically your distance moved by the thread in, so this is distance moved by screw in one revolution. So this is called as a lead. So if I cut one thread and I'm drawing this diagram, so then this is L, and this will be given as a design parameter of the thread. So if a thread is given, these values will be given. So that is L. And then this since we are considering one thread, so therefore this distance is going to be 2 pi r, where r is your mean radius of screw. So these are two parameters for a thread which will be given to you. What is the mean radius of the screw and what is its lead? And of course, we will do some calculations so that it will be clear to you. So if these two parameters are known, then from this figure, we can say that theta is equal to tan inverse of L by 2 pi r. So, and this in some cases is also called as helix angle of the thread. So this is also called as helix angle. for the thread. So the theta is known, and phi s is your friction angle, and we know that this is equal to tan inverse of mu s, right, from the last class. So this again, if the coefficient of friction is given, you can calculate what is phi s. The geometry of thread is known, of the screw thread is known, theta is known. So these numbers, these values are known. Okay. Now going back to this diagram, and if I draw a free body diagram, so now if I draw the free body diagram for this block under acted by 3 force. So now from this diagram, I can say that if I balance force in the vertical direction, so if I consider the forces in the vertical direction, I can say that W is equal to R times cosine of theta plus phi. And if I balance forces in the horizontal direction, then so I'm doing force balance. So if I force balance in the horizontal direction, I get Q is equal to R times sine of theta plus phi s. And if I divide these two equations, we get Q by W is equal to tan of theta plus phi, and therefore Q is equal to W times tan of theta plus phi. So this is the final expression for the value of Q, that the horizontal force Q that we need to apply so that we can lift this block, this weight W up. And now if you want to, let's say for this case, the first figure, if you want to calculate the moment M, then here I can say that M is equal to Q times mean radius R of the screw. So from here I can calculate what is the moment M, because if Q is known, R is known, Q we have calculated. So we can calculate what is the moment M that we need to apply so that we can lift this weight W. And if I have a problem something like this in the second figure, then the moment we know that the externally applied moment is P times A, and that should be equal to your moment M, which should be equal to your Q times R. Right. So from here you can calculate your P, which will be Q R by A. So, so these are some simple, these are the ways by which we can do this calculation. And yeah, so that's about the analysis of square threads. Now here I have balanced forces along horizontal and vertical. You can balance forces along, this normal to the surface and along the surface. You will get little different equations, but if you manipulate it, you will get the same expressions. Okay. So now let us take an example so that we know how to do some calculations. So the example here is, I'm not giving in details, I'm just writing the main data. So the lead of screw is, let's say, 4 mm. So that's your lead of screw. Let's say this is 4 mm. Your mean radius of screw thread is 5 mm. So these are the two data about the screw that is given. the coefficient of friction between screw and its frame is 0.25, and let's say I'm talking about this problem. So if I'm talking about this problem, A is given to us as, let's say, 20 centimeter. And we want to lift a weight W, which is, as I said, we want to lift a car, let's say, of 1500 kg. And if this is, so this is your basically your mass, and your weight will be this times G. So just approximating it to 10, that is 15,000 newtons. So we want to do this simple calculation. So now it is, so first thing is you have to calculate your helix angle theta. So helix angle theta is tan inverse of L by 2 pi r. And by using the screw geometry, 4 mm is the lead of the screw, 5 mm is the mean radius. This value turns out to be, I think, 7.3 degrees. And then we are also given mu as 0.25. So if you take tan inverse of this, you will get your friction angle, and this turns out to be around 14 degrees. Okay. So after that, you just have to substitute in that formula. So if so, this is the value of Q, and let's say in this problem I want to find P. So P is W times tan of theta plus phi times R by A. Right? So that is Q, and multiplied by R by A will give you your P. So, so now you just have to substitute these values. And if you do substitute the value, it is interesting to note the numbers. The numbers comes out to be around 146.2 newtons. So you can see that the effort has been reduced considerably. So to lift a weight which is 15,000 newtons, if you have to lift it, humanly it is practically impossible. And now you can see that by the help of this simple machine, which uses the concept of friction, we are able to, just by applying 146 newtons, 146 newtons means approximately you are lifting 14 kgs approximately. So which I'm sure any one of us can do that. So, so just by applying a moderate amount of force, we are, one person can lift 15, such a heavy load. And of course, this is a very, very simple design, and screw jacks have much little bit more complications, which we may see later. But yeah, so that's about the screw jack part one, in lifting the object. Okay. Now let me move to the next topic, or not the next, but just a just a extension to this topic. Now let's say we have lifted the weight, and now if I remove this force P, if I don't apply this force P, or now I have lifted the car, I have applied a load and lifted the car, and now if I remove this moment M or load P, what will happen? Will the car, will the screw will unwind itself and the car will come down, or will it stay at its own position? So that is the second very important question to consider, that what happens if I have lifted a load, but then if I remove this load P, and if I remove the moment M, will it unwind itself and come down, or it will be stable as it is? That's the second, interesting question that we need to ask. Anyone would like to answer that question? Okay, maybe we'll have discussion later on. So let me continue with this. So now if I remove this load W, not W, if I remove the force Q, let me copy this diagram again. Okay, so now what we are doing is we are removing this force Q. Right? So the moment we remove this force Q, this resultant R will try to move back to the normal, and it will move away from the normal so as to balance this load W. Right? So this R is going to move. So this R will not be in this position. Rather, this R will, its natural position is the orange normal. But now since we have removed the load Q, this black thread has a tendency of sliding down the inclined plane. In other words, there is a tendency for screw to unwind. And if the screw is trying to unwind, again, the friction is going to oppose the motion and will try to push up the screw thread so that it is stationary. Friction opposes relative motion. So the friction will start applying upward, and the resultant force will try to come up to this position here. So this will try to, the resultant force R will try to move back, will try to move to a vertical position so that it is, it balances. And what is the condition, or what is the case at which this is going to be maximum? That case will be when this phi s will be equal to theta. So this is the limiting case when the block is just about to slide on the inclined plane. So as we have seen in the last class, that if the angle of inclination theta is equal to the angle of friction, then the block, or in this case screw thread, it will be just in equilibrium. And beyond that, if theta is going to be greater than phi s, then the block will slide. Now, in our case, if the theta is, block will slide. But in our case, what if theta is greater than phi s, then we will call this as, the screw will unwind automatically. So if the geometry is such, theta is more, means if you have, the lead is very large, R is less, then your theta is going to be large. And if that is the case, in that case, you can visualize that your inclined plane will be something like this. So if you have theta is large, then the block will slide. In other words, the screw will unwind itself. And if you remove the moment M, then automatically it will unwind and the weight will again automatically come down. Now, if theta is less than phi s, then system will be stable. Okay. And therefore, for designing, generally this is the consideration in all screw jacks and other cases. The theta is generally less than phi s. And you can even see in the problem that we have considered, your theta value was 7 and phi value was around 14. So this is a typical thing important for stability of these systems. If not, it will unwind itself, and it cannot be used for clamping applications and other such applications. Okay. The third case, the last case is, suppose I have the screw jack which So now we have this case again. Now we have, applied a force P. We have lifted the object. Now we have left the thing. System is stable. That's very nice. Now let's say I want to lower the car again. So that's the third case. So we have, we are working with, let's say, a car. We lifted it up, stable. After some time, we want to lower it. To lower it, we have to again apply some moment in an opposite direction to lower that car or to lower that weight. The question is, how much should that moment be? So from our practical experience, we know that that moment is little less, but again, how much that moment is, we would like to do that calculation. And in this case, now we are applying for the case of unwinding. So now moment to unwind or unlock the screw jack or a clamp, right? So if you have clamped something, now we want to unlock it, unwind it, how much moment should be applied? That is the calculation we want to do. So now we are going to apply the force in the opposite direction, right? So we are going to apply an opposite moment, and that opposite moment will apply a force in opposite direction. Q will be something like this. Now the reaction force or the resultant force, which ideally would be along this orange line, will move to this position here, and can move to something like this position here, such that this is maximum, which is phi s. Okay. So we are considering that theta is small than phi for the stability case. So this is a stable screw where theta is less than phi, or phi is greater than theta, and therefore your resultant can go beyond theta, as you can see here, and it can be like this. And now we can say that now the system is in equilibrium. And if this system is in equilibrium, now I can write the force balance in the horizontal and vertical direction. So if I write sigma fx is equal to 0, then I can say that Q is equal to R times sine of phi minus theta. And similarly, I can say that W is equal to R times cosine of phi minus theta. And again, if I divide this, we get that Q is equal to W times tan of phi minus theta. And from here, you can calculate your moment to unwind. Unwind is equal to Q times R, which is equal to WR tan of phi minus theta. So if you do the same calculation for the previous problem that we have considered, W is equal to 15,000 newtons. Theta was same, I think 7 degrees, phi was around 14 degrees. This P, using the same parameters, this P will turn out to be around 44 newtons. So, which is a lesser load, but it is a load that we need to apply to open the screw jack. Okay, so I think that's all for today. Let me stop the discussion.